This is a masterpiece rated 9.99 that left hundreds of thousands heartbroken. The story begins with me and Lu Ruyan. We had been married for 6 years. She was once a shining star who fell from grace, but I stayed by her side. Finally, her star became an overnight sensation, a genius artist back at the top. When reporters asked who the man in her painting was, she smiled softly and called him the love of her life. That very day I received her divorce papers. At her exhibition, every piece sold for fortune except her most striking one, Muse. It was a breathtaking oil painting of a boy in white under the moonlight holding flowers with a stunning smile. She announced it was not for sale, not for any price. When asked about the man, she smiled and called him her true love. That same day I got her divorce papers. She left with nothing, giving me the house and money. Then I saw live stream and dialed her number. Congrats, the show was a hit, I said. None of your business, she replied coldly. How is it not? I snapped. You said you'd leave with nothing. The exhibition money is marital property. Let's do the math. He Chang, you really are money grubbing, she sneered. I laughed. Money is more reliable than people. After a long silence, she said, I'll have my lawyer send a new agreement. Deal, I replied, hanging up before she could finish. Every extra second was a waste. It was hard to believe that just 4 months ago, I was still praying we would grow old together. It was our 6th anniversary. On Valentine's Day, I secretly flew back from France to surprise her, but when I reached our building, I saw a young man standing alone in the snow with his bags. His hands were red from the cold, but he sounded incredibly on the phone. Guess where I am? He whispered. I missed you, so I came. It took me back. Days when Ruyan and I were long distance. Whenever the longing got too bad, we would buy a ticket and run to each other. Touched by the sight, I pulled out my phone to call her. Then she walked out of the building and threw herself into his arms. He held her tight like a priceless treasure. Under the falling snow, they shared a long, passionate kiss. I stood frozen, watching their love overflow until she finally looked up and saw me holding my bag. I took a few painful steps forward. We're forward. Her first instinct was to shield him. The boy whispered, Who is he? I had no idea how to react standing before them. I am her husband. The boy instantly stepped forward to protect her. This is my fault, don't blame her. I laughed bitterly and looked at the silent woman behind him. Nothing to say? She bit her lip, her expression hardening as if making a choice. She stepped up next to him, locking her fingers with his. It is exactly what you see, she said. Maybe the freezing wind had numbed my brain, because I didn't scream or fight. I just silently turned around and walked back home, and went inside. She didn't follow me. At home, the balcony window was wide open, letting the freezing wind howl inside. I could easily picture her opening it, seeing him standing below and feeling that rush of joy. Nearby, her easel was still untouched. An unfinished painting caught my eye. The subject was clearly that boy holding roses with a shy smile on his face. Once upon a time, she used to paint me with that same devotion. We met when we were 16 in high school. She was the rich girl, the top student, the school beauty. I was just a poor boy from the countryside. We lived in different worlds, yet we ended up as deskmates. My English was terrible and my accent was thick. The others mocked me, but she always protected me and patiently tutored me. Her smile could light up the entire room. I secretly loved her for 3 years, never daring to hope she felt the same. But after graduation, she surprised everyone by choosing the art academy. Painting was her dream and her family had the money to support her passion. But I did not. My best option was a university in the south and 12 miles away. That summer she visited my village to paint and asked me to guide her. We watched the clouds, the birds, and the hills. On her last night, my mother served her homemade plum wine. She got drunk on one glass and collapsed into my arms. Blushing, she whispered, He Chang, I like you. While helping her pack, I found her sketchbooks were filled with drawings of me. Walking her to the station, I desperately wanted to ask if those words were real. Finally, I spoke up. Ruyan, is it too late for me to confess? She cried tears of joy and replied, Never. As long as it is you, it is never too late. We started dating. Through 4 years of long distance, I gave her all my love. Was the favored one. She used to laugh and say, He Chang, you love me too much. I would just smile and kiss her. From age 18 to 28, we spent 10 years together. Suddenly all those memories rushed back and I broke down and tore her sketches to pieces, sitting alone on the couch until dawn. When she finally returned, she smelled of unfamiliar hotel soap. Seeing me, she looked slightly guilty and whispered, I am sorry. My eyes were bloodshot, my voice raw. When did it start? I asked hoarsely. She was brutally honest. His name was Ji Boda, a senior art student she met at an alumni event last year. He worshipped her talent, a passionate and loyal fan who fell deeply for her. Soulmate. They talked about Van Gogh under the stars and Monet by the lake. She said they were rare soulmates and it's and true lovers. Our 10 years meant nothing compared to their 10 months. When she spoke of him, her gaze was love him, she repeated. I lost my mind. He is just a college kid home wrecking for cash, I screamed. She looked at me, her gaze growing ice cold. He is not like you. He does not just care about money. Her words stabbed right through my heart. She was always a romantic who looked down on money. Back in college she was already famous, refusing wealthy buyers because her art was only for the chosen. But the year she graduated, her family went bankrupt, and her parents died in a crash fleeing creditors. When they trapped her in her house, I climbed over the wall, held her tight and proposed. I had nothing, no status, no fortune, only my devotion. A lawyer told me she was not liable for her parents' debts, but the constant harassment would have ruined her. With my mother's blessing, I withdrew all of my family's savings to pay them off. Our early marriage was brutal. The rental leaked, flooding during storms and freezing us in the winter. We would just hold each other tight to stay warm and talk all night. And talk. Ruyan tried selling her to former buyers but was only humiliated. Her past pride offended people and now she hit walls everywhere. It broke my heart. I told her to stop, so I could support her. I worked 3 jobs. Out of every $100 I made, 99 went to her. Once, I fainted from severe anemia. She panicked, her voice shaking as she cried. I would have regretted not marrying you, but marrying you has only ruined you. It made me feel hopeless. Telling her she was never a burden. Back then I was truly happy. But her next words shattered the illusion. Let's divorce, she said coldly. I'll agree to anything. Squeezed. Don't you know what I want? I asked. She ignored it, repeating that I should set the terms. I laughed bitterly. She really would give up everything for him. Then she dropped a bomb. He Chang, I am pregnant with his child. I remembered our own lost child. On our 2nd year she got pregnant. I was overjoyed, but she secretly had an abortion. Crying, she told me we were too poor to raise a kid, and she didn't want them to suffer. She apologized endlessly. I just held her, forcing a smile, telling her we had time. She hugged me so tight that day, chanting I love you like a spell that bound our hearts together when we had absolutely nothing. After that, I worked myself to the bone. I learned how to play the corporate game and quickly climbed the ranks. My boss, an importer, loved bringing me to client dinners because I could drink. He paid me huge bonuses. I came home throwing up every night and she would stay up taking care of me. She always begged me not to ruin my body for quick cash, but I wanted to build a future. Soon I had the network I needed and started my own wine business. I traveled and entertained daily, completely overwhelmed. Ruyans kept saying we had enough money, but I had 2 promises to keep. I always believed her art belonged to the world and I wanted her to paint freely without worrying about chores or bills, and I hoped the child we lost would find their way back to us. Heaven seemed to hear my prayers. By our 5th year we finally bought a house. Had a house in savings. I finally brought it up. Honey, let's have a baby. But she was cold. Now is not the time, Hechiang. She claimed she hit a creative wall and could not paint anything she liked anymore. Work tried to comfort her, saying my wealthy clients loved her work and wanted to buy pieces for their new homes. She just scoffed. What do those basic people know about art? I froze. Realizing her mistake, she quickly apologized, claiming she didn't look down on business people but just wanted professional validation. Burying her face in my neck, she whispered she was losing confidence. Maybe that was when the cracks started, but I was too busy to notice. I ignored the signs. Soon her mood improved and she was always smiling. I thought she broke through her, but she had actually found a new soulmate. Her boy was young, vibrant and untouched by the world. He would compare her paintings to spring flowers, summer rain and winter snow. To her he was pure art. Meanwhile I was just a businessman smelling of cheap hustle, unable to connect. Heechang, I'm sorry, her voice echoed. A long silence stretched between us, as heavy as all our years together, but I could not just let go. I won't divorce you, I heard myself plead. Ruyan's reply was freezing, telling me it was not up to me. Right then I heard our love die. Just as we hit rock bottom, my mother fell desperately ill and ended up in the hospital. The doctor said it was late-stage cancer. My dad died young and my mother suffered her whole life. She insisted on living in the countryside to not burden us, and when our finances finally improved, I still never made time for her. I felt so guilty. I never let her enjoy a single day of comfort. Lying on the hospital bed, frail and emaciated, she asked me where Ruan. I forced a bright smile and told her Ruthan was busy preparing for an art exhibition, having finally caught the attention of the renowned elder Zhou Yi. I said she was finally making it. My mother smiled with such relief, saying she could finally rest easy knowing our lives would only get better. I made up a quick excuse, ran out of the room and let the tears stream down. Heaven really loves to play cruel jokes on me. Right after our huge fight, Ruyan got news from France. The reclusive elder Zhou was suddenly interested in her art and wanted a meeting. It was a dream come true. They hit it off instantly and she began to view that other boy as her lucky star. She claimed he helped her rediscover her passion for painting. She had no idea I was the one who went through hell to secure that opportunity for her. Now I was just paving the way for another man. I washed my face and returned to the room. My mother suddenly said she wanted to see Ruyan. I could not refuse. Swallowing my pride, I reached out to her. Refusing to look weak, I spoke in a cold, transactional voice, suggesting a deal. I would sign Sa's divorce papers if she agreed to put on a show for my mother. Agreed without a second thought. Even though it was exactly what I wanted, my chest tightened with a twisted pain. Anger, grief, and betrayal devoured me like 1,000 venomous insects. I felt like I was losing my mind. Ruyan arrived right on time. After 2 weeks apart, she looked more radiant and stunning than ever. Life was clearly treating her well. We put on our masks, pretending to be happily married, and walked inside. My mother lay there, pale and weak, but her clouded eyes lit up the moment she saw us. She struggled to sit up and warned me to cherish my wife and never let her down. Then she urged Ruyan to build a good life with me. My mother was never a talkative woman, but that day she had endless advice to give. She was just worried. Ruyan nodded, answering every request with gentle promises, patiently. Finally, my mother placed our hands together, pleading with us to stay together forever. My eyes just welled up with tears. I wanted to scream that if she left, I would have no family left in this world, but the words choked in my throat, and I stood there silent. Ruyan gently patted my back. Her warm gaze looked exactly like the 18-year-old girl I fell in love with. I felt dazed. Even outside the room, we kept holding hands. Pathetically, I realized I still craved the lingering warmth of her palm, wondering if we could just avoid divorcing. This absurd thought spun in my head until a sudden ringtone shattered the moment. Ruyan let go of my hand. I looked up, lost, as the sweet girl from my memories vanished. She stepped aside to answer, and fragments of her normal domestic conversation drifted into my ears. I had no idea what they were saying, but she blushed, playfully scolding him before murmuring that she would be home soon. Looking at her, I felt a chilling sense of alienation. She hung up, noticed my shattered expression, and frowned, asking if I was sick. She reached out to feel my forehead, but I flinched away instinctively. We both froze. Her hand hung awkwardly in the air before she muttered that we could wait with the divorce until my mother got better. My clouded mind snapped back to reality. I nodded and said okay. My mother's condition worsened and her memory began to fail. Every few days she demanded to see Ruyan. For 3 Finks, Ruyan played her part, listening to the same advice over and over, but every time she was at the hospital, Jiboda called her constantly. Eventually he started tagging along. The day they showed up holding hands, I snapped. I blocked their path, screaming at him to get lost. Ruyan tried to pacify me, saying he would wait outside where my mother could not see him. I refused to back down, sneering that showing off their affection wouldn't kill them. The silent boy stepped forward, shouting that I was crossing the line, that we were divorcing anyway, so I should stop tormenting her. Got so aggressive he almost swung at me, yelling she barely even ate. So he had to tag along. Ruyan took his hand, soothing him gently, telling him not to get upset and scare their baby. Jiboda glared at me, then softened as he looked at her. Their disgusting display of affection made my stomach churn. I let out a bitter laugh. We are not divorced yet, you know. This is an affair. Or should I charge you rental fees? Ruyan froze, her eyes filling with tears, asking if I had gone mad. Jiboda gritted his teeth, calling me bitter and saying no wonder my wife did not want me. I am not putting up with this. Choose. Leave with me now or stay with him. He turned to her, his gaze intense. There was no suspense. Ruyan walked away, hand in hand with her lover. That afternoon my mother felt a bit better and I lied, saying Ruyan had an emergency. She did not question it, but by evening she fell into a coma, and the doctor issued a critical condition notice. When she regained consciousness, she asked for Ruyan. Panicking, I called her. When she answered, I crouched down, crying, asking her to please come. She snapped that it was too late. I grew desperate, screaming that my mother was dying. Her tone was cold and dismissive, telling me to stop playing jokes. Shocked and furious, I yelled, asking if she thought I would joke about my own mother's life. She stayed silent, then muttered that it was raining, and she was pregnant, so he would not let her out. Desperate, I begged her to let him drive her, or I would pick her up safely. 10 years together, I begged her to help me one last time. Clinging to hope, I blurted out that today was my fault and I would agree to any terms she wanted if she just came tonight. Thunder crashed, drowning out my shattering dignity. But then a low, hushed voice drifted through the receiver, heavy with intimacy. Ruyan let out a soft, strained groan and whispered for him to stop. The line went dead. I called back repeatedly, but there was no answer. She never showed up. Late that night, my mother noticed my distress and whispered, asking if Ruyan and I had a fight. I forced a smile and lied, saying she was on her way, but her brow furrowed deeper. She asked me to call Ruyan so they could talk, but her phone was turned off. As my mother's mind began to wander, she mumbled, asking how she could rest if my life was hard. Just as dawn broke, she took her last breath, clutching my hand, her eyes refusing to close. My entire world crumbled into ash. I took her remains back to the village for burial. Ruyan showed up, her head bowed and whispering that she was sorry and did not know she was really dying. I pushed her out of the house, my voice hollow. I told her she did not deserve to call her mother. Her tone softened, asking why I could not talk to her nicely, saying she just wanted to help. I stared coldly, saying there was no need. The funeral was quiet, with only a few neighbors helping. Once the crowd dispersed, I finally down. I looked at Ruyan and said we needed to talk. She nodded. Let us finish the divorce quickly, I said flatly. She frowned, trying to deflect, wanting to explain what happened that night. I do not care, I cut off. You are the one at fault, so you leave with nothing. I know exactly what we own, so do not try to negotiate. If you do, I will expose your disgusting affair to everyone. She asked if I really thought she would fight me for money since I earned everything. I sneered, saying I could not trust her anymore. She looked deeply disappointed, saying I was never this cruel before. People change, I replied. The Ruyan I married would never have abandoned my mother. A long, suffocating silence was broken by her phone ringing. It was Jiboda. As she stepped outside to answer, I slammed the front door shut. She never came back. That night, lying in my old childhood bed, I fell into a deep dream of my 22-year-old self. I had brought Ruyan home, declaring to my mother that we were getting married. Creditors pounded on our doors day and night, shouting threats. My mother hid her away, whispering for Ruyan to stay inside and let me handle it. I spent months fighting those thugs alone. On New Year's Eve, it started to snow. I dragged my exhaust body home from another city. Heavy snow piled on my shoulders, but I felt no cold. The instant I unlocked the door, she rushed out and threw herself into my arms. I stumbled but held her tight. She wept happily, saying she never wanted to be away from me again. She was so beautiful, but as I opened my mouth, the dream spun violently. Suddenly I was a ghost, watching her run through the snow into another man's arms, kissing him passionately. I screamed her name over and over, but she never looked back. The world went black, and I plunged into a weightless, endless abyss. I woke up the next morning burning with a high fever. For 2 days I lay in bed, drifting in and out of consciousness. I felt close to death. Then a message from my partner shattered my haze. A major wine shipment had been ruined, costing me a fortune. I forced myself up, got dressed and went out. I bought medicine, recovered a loan, and threw myself back into work. These 4 months drained me. My business was suffering from my absence, and I was too busy to even feel sad. The next time I heard Ruyan's name, she was the talk of the art world. The notoriously harsh Grand Master, Zhou Yi, praised her genius publicly, calling her a masterpiece hidden in the dark. The reclusive master even attended her gallery opening, announcing to the crowd that Ruyan was the most talented young female artist he had ever met. The art world erupted, media flooded the venue and internet articles exploded over her striking beauty only fueled the sudden fame. Her popularity quickly surpassed mainstream celebrities. The hashtag goddess painter trended at number 1. Every cissus was sold instantly. Someone even offered $10 million for her star piece, Muse, but Rusin Fuse refused to sell it. During an interview, a reporter, scenting a scandal, asked who the man in the painting was. She boldly confessed her love for him. My college roommate sent me the video asking what was going on. Clutching the divorce agreement I had just received, I texted back that she loved someone else and we were divorcing. He called me immediately furious, asking if she did not know what I went through for her in France. I replied flatly that even if she knew it would change nothing. Back then, for our 6th anniversary, I wanted to give her a very special gift. I knew her absolute idol was the legendary painter Zhou Yi. The man had avoided the public eye since his youth and was now completely unreachable. I exhausted every connection I had until I finally got a lead. Someone claimed to have seen him walking around the Le Marais district in Paris browsing street art stalls. Using a business trip as an excuse, I flew to France alone. It was my first time abroad. Stranded and lost, my luggage was stolen on day 1. Ran after the thief, straight into a dead-end alley of thugs. I was outnumbered, pinned down and beaten. Before blacking out, I heard someone shout in French, scaring me off. I woke up in the hospital with just minor scrapes. Ling Feng saved me. We were college roommates who had drifted apart after he went abroad. I never expected a reunion like this. He took care of me the entire time. When he asked why I did not tell my wife, Lu Ruyan, I shook my head. She was always locked in her art studio lately, working on something critical. I did not want to worry her. Once I could walk, I spent every day waiting in the Marais district. I had no guarantee of finding Mr. Zhou, but I could not give up. When Fang learned my plan, he stared at me like I was a fool. He laughed, mocking me for spoiling my wife so much. I rolled my eyes and said I did not care. We laughed and fought, feeling like college kids again. Then I rented a street stall from a local vendor in the Marais. I displayed her paintings in the most prominent spot, praying for a miracle. It was freezing winter. Aside from sleeping, I stood in the icy wind all day until my ears got frostbitten. Fang bought me ointment while constantly nagging. He called me crazy for punishing myself. After 3 weeks with Valentine's Day approaching, I decided to head back to China. It had been an impulsive trip and failing was expected. I planned to wait for a better lead, but then a miracle happened. On my final day as I was packing up, Mr. Zhou appeared. He was instantly drawn to a piece she painted at 18. He asked who the artist was and I proudly shared her name. Then he pointed to the not for sale tag on the frame. He asked if it was really not for sale. I nodded, calling it my personal treasure. When he asked why display it then, I said I wanted the world to see how amazing she was. He looked at it deeply, smiled and walked away. He was famous for his sharp eye, having discovered many obscure artists who became legends. I knew her big break had arrived. Things went smoother than expected. Real talent always finds the light and I was genuinely thrilled for her. She was one step closer to her dream. On our anniversary, said I was stuck in France. To surprise her, her dry response hurt. But as I boarded the plane, I saw her social media post that changed everything. She wrote about missing someone across oceans. My worries vanished. On the flight, I kept dreaming of our future. How ironic, her longing was already for someone else. When Ling Fang asked if I felt bitter, I calmly said yes. But moving on with my life is what matters now. He sighed, saying I was terrifyingly rational. I laughed and thanked him. Once the phone went silent, I replayed the video. She looked so gentle, smiling with deep affection on screen. She called that boy the love of her life. It still stung. I called her, stating the art exhibition earnings were mine and I wanted them in the divorce. She mocked me but agreed instantly. She was desperate to marry him. I tried to view my France trip as a business investment. A massive financial payout meant to not lose everything. Slowly I made peace with myself. Money is great. That night I opened my finest wine and drank until midnight. Next morning a phone call woke me. Ling Xingfang sounded frantic. I stumbled to the door and saw him standing there with bags, looking annoyed. He scolded me for keeping him in the dark, then smiled and opened his arms. He grinned, saying he was here for me. I hugged him, feeling incredibly grateful, but I celebrated too soon. To a divorcing man, a guy madly in love is poison. I wanted to play games, but he spent hours on video calls. He finally hung up on his girlfriend. I put him in a headlock, yelling at him for bragging. He laughed, calling it therapy. Secretly admired him. Despite being badly hurt before, he still lived so freely. I asked if he regretted loving his ex. I instantly wished I could take it back, but he remained calm, saying a bad ending does not make the whole journey a tragedy. I sat with that thought for a long time. There was no need to hate her at 18 for who she became at 28. That beautiful girl from my youth was simply gone. I would let go. A month later we divorced and I bought a vineyard in Paris. I moved to France to learn winemaking. Ling Feng already lived there and welcomed me. The day I flew out, she had a lavish wedding with her new man. Glittering in jewels, she made me recall our own cheap wedding. We were broke. Her dress cost 200 yuan and her bouquet was just wild kapak. It was simple like our love. But the past is gone. I boarded that plane, ready to embrace a quiet new life. I expected peace, thinking we would never meet again. Yet a year later, back home to visit graves, there she was. She held white chrysanthemums at my mother's grave. Seeing me, she rasped my name. I coldly asked what she wanted. She stepped closer, saying she hoped to find me here since I sold my house and changed my number. I stepped back, asking what she wanted. The mountain wind blew sand into her eyes, making them turn red. Tears welled up as she whispered that she just wanted to talk. I scoffed. I reminded her she had a husband now and told her to leave my parents in peace. She ignored me, refusing to budge. She kept talking, desperate to explain the night my mother died. She claimed she tried to leave but her husband stopped the emergencies, causing. I brushed it off. Then she whispered that she had miscarried that night. My hands paused over the grave offerings but I remained silent. After a long pause she asked if I would hate her less if she had shown up. I looked into her tearful eyes wondering what this act was for. I looked away, ignoring her grief. I burned 3 incense sticks for my parents and whispered that I was doing wonderful now. As I walked down the mountain she followed me, talking endlessly about our past. She brought up the flowers, the birds and the clouds we used to watch. She remembered everything. But those flowers are dead, the birds are gone, and even the clouds have shifted. Everything has changed. I spent one night at a local motel and flew straight back to France. Our brief reunion barely stirred my heart. Meanwhile, Ling Fang launched his fashion brand and got busy. With hired help running my vineyard, I had free time. I spent my days helping at his studio. I joked that we both studied business, yet here we were making clothes and wine. He wagged his finger, saying life is about self-discovery. I asked when he fell for fashion. He hesitated before answering. When you and she got married, he revealed a secret. I remembered our gorgeous wedding clothes being suspiciously cheap. I had always assumed he got a friend to give us a discount. I nodded. He explained that she wanted to save money, buying basic outfits. But not wanting me to feel cheapened, she designed the patterns, consulted his designer friend, and hand-embroidered everything herself including the veil. I had no idea she could sew. He said she learned in days just for this. She made him promise not to tell me, fearing I feel guilty. He only helped her, but seeing us wear them gave him a sense of accomplishment. We drifted into silence. He recalled how she cried when I lifted her veil on our wedding day. My heart ached with bittersweet emotions. I managed a quiet, sad smile. I admitted she really loved me then. He quieted, mentioning he saw her in Paris recently. I remained calm, pointing out that Paris is an art capital, normal for a painter, but he shook his head. He believed she came looking for me. He saw her trailing me from a distance when he ran out to return my keys. I joked he had the wrong girl. He snapped, asking if I thought he was blind. He admitted he told her how I searched for Mr. Zhou to help her career. I gave him a thumbs up. Ling Feng sighed, describing how she froze, looking utterly devastated and pitiful. I paused before speaking. I told him she was no longer my concern. My vineyard had hired a capable girl who managed the grapes perfectly. Thanks to her, our wine hit top quality, scoring us an elite banquet order. Lu Ruyan was there, delivering the wine. I saw her with her new husband. They seemed distant, barely speaking, unlike newlyweds. I signed the paperwork to leave quickly. She spotted me and hurried outside. I walked fast, but she jogged up to grab my hand, releasing it instantly. I demanded to know what she wanted. As she stammered, my patience wore thin. Suddenly a spark returned to her dull eyes. She asked me to guide her for a French nature painting, offering to pay whatever I wanted. I told her I did not need money. Her face fell and she begged me for a second chance. I stared coldly, asking what she wanted to make up for. I told her I knew about Mr. Zhou. Her talent earned that break and I got my money. She whispered, asking why I kept quiet. I asked if knowing would have changed anything. She insisted we might not have ended up like this. I laughed. I told her to wake up, reminding her of the endless stupid things I did. Once her heart left, nothing I did mattered. I had no interest in her pity. I once fantasized about this moment of regret, but facing it now I felt no satisfaction. I only wondered how she changed. I told her to stop making excuses, or I would truly lose all respect for her. She froze in visible pain. I told her to live with her choices, then walked away without looking back. I walked away without looking back. That night, Lin Feng was working late and asked me to bring him some food. It was pitch black, and his studio was in the middle of nowhere. 2 streetlights along the way were out, leaving the alley dark and silent. Suddenly 2 men with knives lunged at me, demanding everything I had. I didn't have much cash on me. They snatched my bag and snarled something in broken French. I couldn't understand a word. Then they lunged and we got into a wild scuffle. In the middle of the chaos, a figure suddenly rushed in, striking one of the attackers over the head with a heavy stone. Enraged, the armed thug stabbed them twice before fleeing in panic. It all happened so fast. When the dust settled, I saw Lu Ruyan collapse, covered in blood. I rushed her to the hospital. The success of the abdominal wound missed her vitals, but when she blocked the knife with her right hand, her tendons were severed. She might never be able to bed, her face pale. Her first instinct upon seeing me was to ask if I was hurt. I shook my head, my chest tightening. She smiled, trying to comfort me. Don't worry, it's not that bad. After a long struggle, I told her the truth. The smile on her face froze, but she quickly forced a bright, self-deceiving look. It's fine, as long as terrible actress. She turned away, her entire body trembling. I tried to comfort her, telling her that the doctors hadn't ruled out hope completely. Even if her right hand failed, she could train her left. There was always a way. Suddenly she turned to me with bloodshot eyes. He Chang, if I divorce Jibata, can we? I cut her off, speaking plainly. Liu Ruyan, there is no us anymore. Just focus on recovering, and don't think about anything else. The sheer despair in her eyes was heartbreaking. Tears welling up, she begged quietly, can you at least stay tonight? Please don't leave. I replied calmly, the one who should be by your sides now is Jibota, not me. But that night Jibota never showed up, so I couldn't bring myself to leave. During her surgery, I called him from her phone, but there was no answer. I texted but got silence. By midnight, she ran a low fever and threw up blood. The doctor examined her again and revealed she had stomach cancer. It wasn't late stage yet. With active treatment, she could recover. I couldn't understand how someone with her wealth and status could end up like this, but I asked nothing. The next afternoon, Jibota finally arrived, looking incredibly sharp and polished. He kept pestering the doctor, asking if she could still paint, barely even noticing my presence. I said goodbye to her. Get some rest, I'm leaving. She didn't say a word, just staring blankly with lifeless eyes. But after her right hand was ruined, the value of her art actually skyrocketed. News of a public auction for me, the masterpiece that made her famous overnight, quickly went viral. Back then, shortly after using that painting to declare her love, she married the man in it, creating a romantic legend online. Because of that beautiful story, the artwork became even more priceless, eventually selling to a collector for a staggering $50 million. But just days later, things took a shocking turn. G. Boda selling fake art and Liu Ruyan's affair suddenly shot to the top of the trending search lists. Liu Ruyan held a press conference, publicly admitting that the original muse had been destroyed long ago, and the one sold a forgery by G. Boda. Before the cameras, she confessed that the romance behind the painting was actually a sordid affair, and that once she achieved fame, she had abandoned her husband of 10 years. Netizens went wild, blasting the toxic couple. Because of her confession, the police launched an investigation into the counterfeit art. Soon after, G. Boda was arrested and charged with manufacturing and selling fake goods. Of the massive amount of money involved, he faced life imprisonment. After that, Liu Ruyan vanished from the public eye. My life returned to a quiet, peaceful rhythm, and my vineyard business began to thrive. 6 months later, I met an unusual customer, a 16-year-old French girl. She came by every few days to buy signs, insisting on some bottles I crafted myself. She also had a strange request. She wanted me to teach her Chinese one sentence at a time, carefully recording my voice. Sometimes it was just simple greetings like good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Other times, it was different phrases. On Valentine's Day, she came to buy wine again and asked me to record the words I love you. By then, I had started a new relationship with the wonderful girl who helped manage my estate. Once I recorded those words, the French girl suddenly leaned in and whispered, I love you too. I playfully patted her head, then turned to apologize to my girlfriend, asking if the extra phrase was okay. The girl bit her lip, looking slightly conflicted, but ultimately said nothing and left with her wine. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. There was only a long, heavy silence. Assuming it was a wrong number, and since my girlfriend was calling me for dinner, I hung up. After that, the French girl never returned. The next time Liu Ruyan's resurfaced in the public eye was shortly after Valentine's Day. I stared at the headline on the trending list and froze. The news reported that her body had been found in an old French vineyard, showing she had died penniless and ravaged by illness. Her only remaining possession was a painting titled Beloved, featuring a couple in wedding attire. The bride wore a flowing white gown, holding a bouquet of kapak flowers while the groom gently embraced her. Both of their faces were veiled, making soft and blurred. While art experts praised it as the finest work of her entire life, netizens wondered whether the painter was reminiscing about her past love or if she had found a new soulmate. I stared at the bouquet in the bride's hand, my mind drifting back to the year we married. The kapak flowers had bloomed exceptionally early. I gathered some and tied them with a ribbon. When she asked why not roses, I smiled and said because I love their meaning. From my own perspective, I married the boy I fell in love with at first sight, too promising to grow old together. Our life was modest but sweet. When did things start to go wrong? Looking back, it must have been when we lost our first child. That was the first time I felt so utterly powerless. After that, he worked desperately, counting every penny, his mind entirely consumed by money. Since my art wasn't selling, he tried everything to find a way out. He used his connections to find commercial commissions for me. It felt like school assignments, painting exactly what the clients wanted. None of those pieces had a soul. They just aimed to please. I hated it, but since he worked so hard to get those opportunities, I felt I had to cherish them. Our lives were improving and I felt we had enough, but he was never satisfied. He ran himself ragged, barely having time to speak to me. He would introduce me to his business contacts, smoothly raising a glass to toast them, begging them to look out for us. To polite onlookers, those people would buy my painting prices, joking about how supportive my husband was. Honestly, I detested his submissive, flattering attitude. I felt increasingly suffocated, growing to hate my own art. Then everything changed. I met G. Boda. He would sit quietly by my side watching me paint just like He Chiang used to do. He truly understood me and appreciated my art, never focusing on the price tag. Suddenly my gray world had a splash of color and I slowly regained my creative spark. I admit, my heart fluttered. I convinced myself that this pure, gentle young man was my true soulmate and that my marriage to He Chiang had been a mistake from day one. On our 6th anniversary, He Chiang discovered our affair, and I made my final decision. Leaving He Chiang felt like a massive weight off my shoulders. Even better, my idol, the famous painter Zhou Yi, reached out to meet me. He told me he had spotted one of my paintings at a French street stall and fell in love with my talent. That painting depicted a simple mountain village. A young boy stood on the hillside, and though it was just his back, it was incredibly vivid. I painted it when I was 18 and gave it to He Chiang. He used to treasure it, but must have sold it off for quick cash. Money always came before feelings for him. Whatever, we were divorcing anyway. Under Master Zhou's guidance, my art exhibition became a massive success. I had finally made it. Even though He Chiang forced me to leave with absolutely nothing, earning money was now effortless. Soon, my new love and I held a grand wedding. I thought this was the dream life, but slowly things felt off. I started having frequent dreams about He Chiang. Waking up in the dead of night, looking at the man beside me felt completely surreal and empty. To cope, I locked myself away to paint. For days in the past, He Chiang always made sure I had 3 meals a day, even calling me from his business trips to ensure I ate and slept on time. But G. Boda never cared. Once we got married, he rarely spent time discussing my art with me. If I complained even slightly, he would slam the door and storm out. I began to miss Hee-chang uncontrollably. Dining in luxury restaurants with Jibota only made me remember huddling in a tiny rented room with Hee sharing a single pork bun. Buying expensive gifts made me recall our first anniversary. Hee-chang had secretly saved up for months to buy me a Dior lipstick and an Estee Lauder skincare set. Back then I scolded him for wasting money while crying happy tears. Remembering how I called him greedy during our divorce felt like a sudden painful blow to my chest. I felt sick. Compelled by regret, I tried calling Hee-chang, but the number was disconnected. I secretly visited our old home only to find a new family living happily inside. Watching them, I wondered if I had thrown away the simple happiness within my reach. I quickly shook my head to banish that thought. I kept telling myself my choice had to be right, so I tried even harder to please Jibota, but life is incredibly ironic. Jibota was cheating on me. The real him was worlds apart from the perfect man I had imagined. He would send intimate photos to other women late at night, calling them his wife. Hee-chang, so this is what betrayal feels like. I was so cruel to you. When I mentioned divorce, Jibota threatened to make my life a living hell. I couldn't fight back. Just 1 year in, our marriage felt like a tomb. I started visiting Hee-chang's hometown, hoping he might return someday. During the Spring Memorial Festival, we actually ran into each other. He looked wonderful, confident, and full of life. It was clear that leaving me had made his life so much better. Standing before his parents' grave, he mentioned owning a vineyard in France. I quietly memorized that detail. Soon I began flying to France just to catch a secret glimpse of him. There I ran into Lin Fang, who revealed a shocking truth about my success. It was built entirely on Hee-chang's quiet sacrifices. I was the one who strayed. Over the years I forgot my vows. I once had the most beautiful love in the world and I threw it away. The realization broke me. I resolved to divorce Jibota. He demanded 10 times the money Hee-chang had walked away with. I agreed, though I needed time to raise it. Later, we were both invited to an art exhibition in France. At the gala I saw Hee-chang. I couldn't stop myself from drawing closer. That night he was mugged. Without a second thought I lunged to save him. He rushed me to the hospital and actually worried about me. If losing my right hand could bring him back, I wouldn't care. But he wouldn't give me that chance. God knows how badly I wanted to hold him when he walked away. He was so quick. When he turned, I couldn't even catch his sleeve. I guess this is my karma. He will find someone 1,000 times better, while I will never find anyone like him again. After returning home, I fell gravely ill. Jibota visited me once. Soon, I was diagnosed. I heard my painting sold at auction for 4 times its price, but I had destroyed that piece. Explanation: the forgery. I rushed home to confront Jibota, only to find 2 bodies tangled in our bed. Our marriage was far more disgusting than I ever imagined. He had a longtime girlfriend who fell into bad habits and ran up massive debts with loan sharks. He only married me for my money. He tried to bargain with me. My right hand was ruined, meaning I lost my way to earn. If I stayed silent, we could split the auction cash 50-50. He really loved that girl. But she owed too much and they would die if they did not pay. Turns out he actually had a heart. It just belonged to someone else. He would even risk his life for her. How pathetic and hateful. I called a press conference. Both of us had to pay for what we did. The day he was sentenced, we divorced. He had already drained all my assets, leaving me with absolutely nothing again. I started teaching myself to paint with my left hand. The quality was terrible compared to before, but selling them on the street got me some cash. It took 6 months to save enough for France. The doctors told me my stomach cancer was terminal. I did not have much time left. If possible, I wanted to be near him when death came. I rented a rundown cottage near Hee-chang's estate. A kind couple lived next door with their sweet daughter, and I often asked her to visit Hee-chang's winery to buy wine, asking her to record his voice each time I desperately needed to hear him. His wines was my only medicine, helping me temporarily forget my excruciating pain. I often saw Hee-chang in my dreams, dressed in a sharp suit, looking at me with gentle eyes, whispering, "Liu Ruyan, we are married." But waking up, that deep, agonizing longing would torture me again, so I poured it all onto the canvas. It turned out that even with just my left hand I could paint Hee-chang beautifully. After all, I had sketched his features countless times when we were young. I painted myself beside him, my beloved, but Hee-chang's eyes in the painting stared right back at me, making me panic. He must hate those words, so I used oil paint to cover our faces with a wedding veil, selfishly leaving the title on the canvas. "If there is a next life, I will never let go of your hand." I curled up beside the painting, letting loneliness and despair swallow me. Valentine's Day arrived and my body reached its absolute limit. I knew I was dying. At a time like this, I could be selfish just once, right? I asked the neighbor girl to record him saying "I love you," but she failed. Such a pity. I could not help but call Hee-chang. What should I even say? Before I could speak, a woman's came through. She called his name sweetly, and Hee-chang answered with a gentle, doting tone. It was the voice of someone in love, one so familiar to me. I realized I had finally, completely lost him. He hung up and I coughed up a mouthful of blood. As darkness swallowed my vision, I saw the bride in my painting lift her veil to look at her groom. He held a kapak flower. When she asked why it was not a rose, he smiled mysteriously and said he loved its meaning. I suddenly remembered telling Hee-chang that I love kapak flowers the most. Their meaning represents the truth of love, to cherish the person beside you, and appreciate the happiness right in front of you.